Okay, guys, welcome back to Slasher Street Podcast, and I am thrilled to be joined by two very, very special guests tonight to talk about their highly anticipated upcoming movie, The Forest Hills. So, firstly, we have the writer and director of The Forest Hills, Scott Goldberg, and also the star of the movie itself, playing the character Rico, we have Chico Mendes. So, guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. How are you both doing tonight?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Scott, I'm doing great. Now that we're
Fantastic.
here, yeah. I think Christmas came a little early. Actually, Valentine came a little early.
It's here, right?
Yeah.
Coming soon.
Man. Yeah.
Literally a week. So I really appreciate you guys coming on the show. Really exciting times for you guys at the moment with The Forest Hills, which we're absolutely going to get into. But first up, I suppose where we would start with every guest that we have on the show is the beginning for you guys. So how did you guys get started, essentially? I know that's a separate question for each, but how did you get started? Did you always want to be in the business of making films and being a director, and Chico, for you being an actor?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, you go.
You go.
Huh?
Well, you're before me. See, he's a little bit older, so he actually has many years more experience. So I'll hear that, and then we'll segue into how him and I met.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna try to crush it down a little bit because my bio is like,
Yeah.
Check this out, and this is something interesting that a lot of the, especially the kids growing up, they're doing it, and they don't even know that they're doing it. Like when you play cops and robbers, cowboys and Indians, you're performing in a play. You're performing a character. And that's what we did as kids. I did theater when I was like 7, 8, 9 years old. I didn't even know that was theater. I discovered film in early 2000s because I was always into music and drama, but I didn't know there was such a thing. So since I was doing it since I was a kid, I discovered film, the transition from theater to film. I was like, oh, is that what it is? Interesting. But in film, oh my God, it was like going to college because there's so much technical stuff in there. So I had to learn that aspect of film and TV and radio. Luckily, there's that music end. I was always bouncing around with live bands, in and out of a recording studio, always fiddling around with a microphone, always cutting and patching speakers together, as blowing radios up to see how they work. You know what I mean? And then I put my music resume down, and somebody asked me, can I film you performing your song? That's when I got the film bug. Put the music resume down, focused on the film resume, and right around that year is when I met Scott. Yeah. Somewhere back there. And we've been working for about, almost 19 years now. And he was in college, and he put a casting call out, and it was something related to zombies and horror and blood and guts. And I was like, yes, it's the holidays. Went for it, and we've been working together ever since. You know?
Yeah. I've always been into films and horror ever since I was young, and in college, so we had to write a thesis, and instead of a superhero thesis, it was about superheroes. So I just thought of the idea of a janitor who fights off zombies, and Chico plays like a victim who runs into the bathroom and basically gets mauled he had been mauled by zombies. He's bloody, bleeding, and I remember the first time seeing Chico there, and he's just pouring the blood all over his head and all over his face. He's screaming, and the janitor, played by T-Berry, who's a street performer in Harlem in New York City, he would come out of the bathroom because he was in the toilet, and Chico sees him. Chico's character sees him and starts saying, help me, and also we actually have a video on YouTube. If you type in, I think The Night They Came Back,
that was
Chico Mendes or something, it'll probably pop up. But it's real bad quality because it was shot on digital video cameras from the school back in 2003, 2004. So 2004, I think it was. Yeah. So then we did a film called The Day They Came Back, which was kind of like a short film after that. And I mean, we filmed at Well and Preserve, right, in Glen Cove, countless times for so many projects. Off the Grid, which we did in 2018.
Oof.
They came back,
Let me tell you,
you know, all different stuff.
in the rain,
So that's how,
sleet and snow, blizzard,
yeah.
ice, cold, dark at night when the generators was like shut off. And we're like, okay, where's the next tree? We can't see. And we're trying to haul all the equipment out of the woods because
Right.
I don't know, what was it? The power went out, something blew, or we ran out of gas.
Yeah, probably that. And the generator was supplied by a guy named John Ruggiero, who had a
Yeah.
company called J5 Lighting Industries. And so he would come to all the shoots and he would bring like this generator that I guess his company had. And it was like big RE like lights, like 10K lights and stuff. It was pretty crazy. So at nighttime, we'd like light it up and all this other stuff. So yeah, we have a history going back quite a while for sure, me and Chico.
Yeah. Right around that time is when we also ran out of blood in one scene. And you don't know, we'll tell you later what we did.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So you've both always been a big fan of horror movies, and because Scott, I think you primarily, I mean, a lot of your stuff is horror, and obviously the Forest Hills is horror. And so have you guys is that always been a genre that you've always wanted to be a part of and, you know, working in and being a fan of?
Yeah, I think, I mean, yeah, just because it's a fantasy, right? And we want to create some really cool, gnarly things, you know, whether it's blood, gore, you know, scaring people, making people feel emotional aspects of sadness, fear, dread. I mean, you know, so that's, I mean, that's, you know, I love that kind of stuff. And especially original horror. Yeah. Go on.
Oh, I was going to say, and you know, horror is a big part of theatrical, you know, Phantom of the Opera, that, you know, big. And my background has always been theater, no matter what, theater. That's my backbone. That's where I started. I didn't even know it was theater at the time. I always try to do a play at least once every 2 years. You know, here in Florida, it's not a lot, but whatever I find, even if it's a short one nearby, whatever, I try to do it just to stay active in theater. But horror is a blend. Not my preference, but even in singing and writing and playing and music, you know, it's always been drama, romantic. Those are my two drama. As far as performing, drama. But you can have drama and horror. You can have horror and drama. Horror is drama, but like times 1,000. And horror brings out the internal emotions of that dramatic sequence.
Yeah.
It could be internal, but when it comes out, like how many times have we thought it's like, oh man, I would like to just crack your skull just so you know, but if you actually do it on film, that's horror, right? But if you don't do it and you just that's drama.
Yeah.
Holding it in, that's drama. Letting it out, that's horror. And then the thriller, and you know, everything is it's a variant. And what I love about all of these genres is you can write. It's how you write and blend them all in. Blend them all. You can have horror in one scene, suspense in the next, then a dramatic moment, then a little comic relief, ha 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 ha, and then your eyeball flies out. You know. So yeah, horror has always been a part of what I love to do. So that's why when I saw his casting call, I jumped on it. Everybody's like, what? Blood, guts, intestines, pig feet? What? Yeah. Whatever we had to do to make the zombie sequences look real. And the beauty of that is that we got creative with like, and I always love to work with my hands. And as we were growing up, that's another thing we did as kids, paper mache, drawing. I always drew like little comic books, but in stick figures. And who knew that all of that was part of a storyboard, filming, acting, lines, singing, writing, you know, all that stuff. Who knew that all of that would bring me to where we are now? But as long as you follow your niche, your just be interested, be curious is what I say. Stay curious and poke at the coconut and see what's inside. You know,
Yeah.
you might find an apple.
Yeah. Well, that leads on to this next question, which because so obviously this is, I believe, your first feature, Scott, that's coming out. This is going to be a big release. So, but you've known each other for 20 years. You know, you've known each other for so long. So, you know, how have you managed to, you know, work together for so long? You know, is it just something that you've clicked together, and you know that was it 20 years later, and now we're here making this huge feature? You know, what has been the secret to you guys' relationship and longevity together?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like anything, you know, just like you know, every relationship's different, right? When it comes to friendships or any relationship in general, whatever kind of connection people have. For some years we didn't talk because I didn't have any projects going on. You know, life gets in the way, child, marriage, all that stuff, right? So you were on, you know, you just certain points like where it's like an ebb and flow. There's like a downturn, and there's like upturn, you know. So
yeah,
things.
I left New York too, and I came to Florida. I was out here for a couple of years. I'm still here, so we were a little distant, and you know, it wasn't like he's in Long Island, I'm in Queens, and hey Chico, what are you doing Saturday? Let's hit the woods. It's snowing. It's clouds. We've got clouds. You know, and I'd run. And it's like, what are we doing? Hang upside down from the tree, and then I'm gonna hit you in the feet with a bat. Action.
So
yeah.
recently,
Go ahead,
it was more 2018. At the time, Rico was, you know, living in a van, and so we decided to document the film Off the Grid, which is a feature-length docudrama. So it's not like a feature-length, you know, fake story. It was at the time really what was going on, and so we kind of did some, you know, bunch of different, you know, takes on Chico as a person, and also this guy Lee as a person, and the things that they were going through, and how like they wanted to create analog movies through Super 8, VHS, and whatnot. So that, you know, so that was our latest thing that we worked on. Yeah. And then, you know, this opportunity came aboard. Well, what happened was we had as Chico and I know about this, we had a producer who was out of state, and obviously some red flags were going on, and he had requested if I knew anyone with money, and a friend of mine, Elliot, you know, wanted to put down a little bit of money for the film. So, you know, unfortunately, because of the red flags, or maybe fortunately at this point, he had to back out. And so I had to come up with a totally different idea, because I said, what? I want to do something in New York instead of going out of state. And I said, what about the Catskills? Or just thinking in my mind, like, you know, what can I do? And I was like, I want Chico to play the role of this guy who basically goes to this cabin, and just the whole idea was he wakes up and there's a bloody victim, and then we just cut to him arriving at a cabin and just driving up to and sitting, and it was a vision of him like sitting at a couch as like a werewolf sits there with him. So small things that slowly,
we started just the two of us. He started with an idea, rough draft, like 2 or 3 pages at a time. He's like, oh, wait till you, and he sent me like a scene, and I'd look at it like, oh my God, where are those meds? Because it was dramatically horrific or horrifically dramatic, but the scenes were awesome. I said, we got to do this stuff, you know.
This is all with Chico. This was all with Chico in mind, because, you know, this was written for him, because I worked with him so long and knew what he could bring to the table. You know, I felt that it was a great choice, and he was the only person that could play the role of Rico. He was the only person that I know that I think that, because I wrote it. Well, I wrote it with Chico in mind, so there's that. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's how we started. Whenever Scott would tell me, he's like, okay, we're filming, because originally we were filming out of the country.
Yeah, it was potentially going to be Kazakhstan, but we got back a day later.
And that didn't happen. And I was already packed up and getting ready to go get my passport. and then he called me. He's like, Kazakhstan's not going to happen. I'm like, should I? I left my bag by the door. I'm not going to unpack yet. And then that changed to another state, like Georgia or something like that. And then it changed to New York, and then it snowballed into something a little bigger. And then when it became more solid, that's when the script grew and grew and got more polished, and one thing led to another, and here we are.
Here we are. And so
I mean-
this is obviously the Forest Hills, which, you know, super excited about. It's getting a ton of buzz online. So that's super awesome to see. So, Scott, I mean, how did you, come up with the idea of the Forest Hills? What was essentially the story behind, this movie? Because this is really such one of probably your biggest and most ambitious, project to date, from what I could see.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's with the idea of just having Chico play a role that I felt he could deliver on, and just the idea of, as they say, right? There's a different movie from pre-production to production to post-production. So in my mind, what I thought of at the time is not what we did for production, and during production is not in my mind what I thought we would do for post-production. So it's different every level, and I could think back to like certain scenes. Say, in my mind, there's a as you saw the film, there's a fireplace scene, right, with Eddie Furlong and Chico. When I was writing the script and we had the location, I visualized a back porch area with cobblestones and more space. They didn't have that. So we shot on the side of the house. So there's certain things like that where you visualize when you're writing in your mind and how you see them sitting and how you see them interacting, and then actually having the movie, and when you're filming it, making those decisions and saying, okay, they were going to sit where Billy's character comes to console Rico. They were going to sit like more towards a lake area, but because it was sunny, I said, where it's somewhat clouds, I said, well, I don't want to cause any continuity issues. Why don't we sit under a tree? So we sat under a tree. And then there's another scene that takes place on Adirondack chairs where they had the fireplace scene, Rico and Edward Furlong, Chico and Edward Furlong, and we set it on the side of the porch instead. So there's things that change every single time when you're making a film, when you're in pre-production and doing all that. So it was kind of like an evolution and how it all came to be. And yeah, I'm very, very, very happy with it. And Scott Hinton, Digital Stone, and his team did a great job. Came out from Atlanta. First time working with them. I'd say he told me, he's like, I want your first budgeted film to be something that you're proud of, that you understand that there's not going to be any issues, and there weren't. And unfortunately, with that other producer, there would have been. So yeah. But that's how it kind of came to be in the whole process of, for the whole production from to finish, as it just kind of evolved and it was different as it went along.
Say, one of the things that I told Scott from the beginning is that, listen, no matter what you're going to do with this project, I am going to get to the finish line. I'm not going to I'm not going to jump ship. Don't worry about me. I'm going to give you as all the fuel I got. And every day we had to adapt. Every day there was something different. I mean, one time we were driving up a hill to get a drone shot with Hanson, and the van crapped out. And almost half the day, almost like 6 or 7 hours, just kind of like slowed down and disappeared. But we caught up. We were moving at such a fast pace, and let's go in and out, because that's the beauty of having theater and having experience with musical bands and hopping around live, is that sometimes you go in and just wing it, because all you have is 20 minutes. The sun is going to disappear, and that's it. Go, Scott, action, go, and do it one time, do it again, and done. Okay, no sun, that's it. We're done. Next. And that's where life stuff comes in, being prepared is a big part of that. And I'm grateful that we actually made it all the way to the end, because there were a lot of problems. There were. Yeah, definitely. There were a lot. But that's one of my mottos. What is one of my mottos, Scott, that I always mention about the...
Make lemon out of lemonade?
No. Remember the Coke... the
Coke. Yeah, go on.
We must learn how to make lemonade out of coconut shells.
That's
there you go. If life hands you a coconut, you squeeze the lemon out of it. That's it. And so you can do, or at least try.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we got through. You know, the first time that thing that happened with the other country and whatever other people were involved, that needed to happen for us to be here.
Agreed. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I know.
So I don't see it as a bad thing. It's not a negative thing. It's just a deterrent. It's just a
Yeah.
don't make it right, make a left. Don't make it right, make a left, make a left at the stop sign. No, not at the red light, at the stop sign. If you pass the stop sign, make a left on the red light. You went the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, there was a situation where the producer wasn't confident about my decision and my casting choice, and he wanted someone else. And I said, I felt so horrible, and I said, no, that's not what I want to do. And you know, as I kept on going along, there was just a lot of these things that just like there was no agreement until like 3 weeks ago. It's all this crazy stuff that was going on. We just said, you know what, I can't do this. So for me, and as I talked to Chico through like Messenger and sending texts back and forth and phone calls, you know, we're close like that. So I wanted to make sure that we both were sticking in this together, because that was very important for me that we both were able to do this together, because I felt absolutely horrible when the producer was telling me, and we had the money. I mean, it's not like he had the money, but you know, he had the production and all that to go with crew, and he wanted to do it and stuff out of state. And, you know, and he just didn't agree with voices, my ideas. He didn't like the cursing and this. So stuff, we wanted to make it or like, you see me? Oh, sorry. I think I got cut off for a second.
You were breaking up there. Yeah, you were just breaking up for a minute.
All right. Yeah. I think the producer doesn't want me to say anything. No, but
just hack the internet.
But you know what? In all due honesty, that's always going to happen. A disagreement here and there, it's always going to happen. But I'll tell you this. One of the reasons why we stuck together for so long is because how I did theater in the mountains with nothing, none of this, none of this. So at the end of the day, it's the show must go on.
Yeah.
No light, camera, no camera. If there's two kids there eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and they paid 10 cents to come see a show, you give them a show. If there's 2 million people that paid $200 a ticket to come see a play, you give them a play. The show must go on and that's what I told Scott. Now, one of the things that ruins it for all of us that are in it for the creative part, for the artistic reason, is the paperwork, the contract, the money, and this, and the fame, and the glory, and the women, and the this, and the that, and the, you know, because I've been in bands that have made it, have made it and faded, as I call it. And I've done it. I've done it once, and then I do it again. Nice. But I always give it a second shot, but it's never been because of me. I'm always the last. The group breaks up, they all leave, and I'm the last person solo. And it's a group. But I could never go to school for that, ever. I can never go to college and get a degree on that. That was hard. And that's kind of sort of what's in here that keeps me going, especially if we're bonded like that. We started ever since he came out of school. I used to tell him, even joking, I was like, you know what? You're the next Romero. You're the next Spielberg. And no matter what he had for me, I was always jumping in until I moved out of state. And so, but I've always had that thing in me that there's a reason why you do something. If you're going to do it, do it 1,000%, or don't waste your time. Do something else quick before you waste 19 years. We've come this far. Finish. Let's finish.
Yeah.
And that's
that segues. Oh, sorry, Carrie, I've interrupted you there. Sorry,
that's what we did.
I was going to say, because that segues perfectly into what I was going to ask you, to be honest, because the character of Rico in The Forest Hills, I mean, this part that you play, it's a very, I can imagine, it's a very physical part that you play. It's very, over the top. And I mean, how was that playing that character? Was it a challenge? Because it looked a challenge, from what we've seen. It looked like you put a hell of a shift in for it.
Did you see the did he see the a draft, like the full draft?
Yeah.
Oh,
I've
okay.
seen it just a couple of hours ago.
Okay, because honestly, I haven't. I haven't.
Oh.
I'll see it at the premiere. But I'll tell you one thing: I'm not the uh, I'm not a poster boy. You know, I don't think I'm handsome or built or bodybuilder or strong. You know, but that's what real people are. A real person, a real character is not. He's sick, and especially if it's the role. Scott told me, "Let your beard grow." It was already halfway, and he said, "Let it grow." I let it grow for 2 years. I mean, it was growing for a year, and then I let it grow for another year. Just all out crazy because I'm all screwed up. I'm all screwed up in the cabeza, you know, on meds, on and off meds, bipolar. Who knows? So I used all of that. Being overweight, out of shape. You know, I let myself go on purpose. I would try to eat. I would try to just like not sleep and then sleep too much and not pick up heavy things or just be lazy and just you know slack off or whatever. And I was getting into Rico's head, and then all of a sudden I just like bust out. And it's like I've been working on my car literally. The alternator went out and the pulley is now bad. I'm waiting for tomorrow. And I've been up since yesterday, no sleep. And I just, you know, and the car's out there all dismantled, but that's the back and forth with Rico. He was like, you know, like wax on, wax off. One day he's all crazy and nut. So it was a hell of a challenge, but that is what I loved about the role. It had all of those elements, the drama, the thrill, the calming down, the romance, the a little comedy it had, and then the terrifying outbursts that come from physical theater. And frankly, I don't know how I didn't even lose my voice to this day. and we went singing. And we went singing.
It's those vitamins, you know, and good genes, I guess.
Yeah, it's also, but you know, remember, it's also
everyone got sick but him. Like literally everyone got like what I had. I had like a bad cold, and like everyone got sick. But there was Chico like in the cold, freezing water, and like screaming his head off and exhausted, and he didn't get sick. Crazy.
He put me half. You saw the film, so you saw the scene. When he put me in the lake, I scoured the bottom. I spoke to the owner. I said, "There's no broken glass or cobras or electric eels down there, right?" And when I went in there with my boots, and I left, my two soles came out flapping.
Oh,
my boots fell apart, but I still have them.
Oh, crap.
That lake was freezing, and when I came out, I was literally.
Yeah.
But luckily, we had an awesome crew. We had PAs helping us out with blankets and keeping us warm and all kinds of things. And the same thing happened when he laid me down on rocks by a river, laying down. And after a while, your blood circulation starts to slow down, and you start to actually adapt to the temperature where you don't feel it's that cold. But when you get wet, it's a different story.
Yeah,
turn into an icicle. And and then the other time, you know, the river scene, and with the blood, when it was cold, and drenched in blood, the blood is liquid, but when it sticks, all over my head, I mean, Jesus Christ, it was everywhere.
I remember that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Denise was there, who's on set medic, and you know, she was telling me like, you know, just she was very nervous about it because it was, you know, even though it was like fall, like early fall, like early October, and up in Catskills, it's definitely different than I am on Long Island, and it's especially where he is in Florida.
Yeah,
but he fell to that kind of stuff either way. But I will say the water was freezing, so to go in there and kneel in it and wash yourself, blood off of yourself and everything. I mean, I couldn't even. I'd be like,
it was
fucking. You know.
It was freezing, and I don't know. I mean, I don't think about it. I did not think about it. I said, let me just do it.
Right.
because I welcome it. I'm not that crazy. I'm not going to jump off a bridge with no safety net. You know, I'm not that crazy. But I've lived in New York for 40 years, and I handle every blizzard there is. And I said it's time for change. So I came down here, and I still went up there. And he put me in the water naked. How dare you? Change. And guess what?
In a way, because you were like just going so crazy, just like get me out of here. You know, like I can imagine the cold water would just make you even crazier. The fact that you were in there in pain.
Yeah, that's all the theater thing. It's like whatever it is around, use your surroundings, use it, because a real person in that situation, for real, I'm not going to try to be delivering a Shakespeare monologue. No way. I would like to. So be wet. Oh, no. A real person in real life would not be acting in that kind of environment, right, Scott?
Sure, you're right.
So the best thing to do is just to play that. What would that character do? And then, based on his direction, okay, I want you to. He would like. We're just tools, you know. Actors are just. We're rubber bands and we're muscles. So the director's like, okay, do this, do that, do this, do that, do this, do this, do this, do that. There, got it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works, and sometimes you get a good shot. Sometimes you don't, and sometimes you get a good one. So, but yeah, I loved it because it was up and down, and down, and then it was in the middle, like the Billy scenes, where I was just quiet, just reacting to he was saying, playing the idiot. You know, I love that because he was like over the top animated, and I'm like, okay, I got it. And I was like playing, and when he did, I say, Scott, how do you want me to do this? He said,
in the bench.
Yeah,
you guys are sitting in the bench of the tree.
yeah. And some other scenes is like, okay, today you're dumb. That's all I got. That's the direction I got. Today you're dumb. And I'm like, but what does that mean?
Well, you pulled it off either way, so it worked fine. Either way, worked well.
So I love the fact that we did a little bit of everything, and I trust the crew entirely. And I said, Scott, we got the shot. That was my last line, almost in every take. We got the shot. I was walking away from the lake, shivering. We got the shot, right? We got the shot. And you say, yeah, we got the shot. Okay, good. Because in editing, with the music and all of that stuff, you can't do that in a play every day and survive. But for film,
works better. So I mean, so the Forest Hills, obviously, I'm sure there's so much buzz online about it because of, you know, I think it seems like everyone is talking about it on Facebook and on Instagram and stuff like that. I mean, you've got some major stars in this film. You have, you know, Billy, who is played by, you know, the fantastic Edward Furlong, John Connor himself from Terminator 2. You have some horror alumni in Dee Wallace, Felicia Rose, and of course, you know, the big one, the fabulous Shelley Duvall, who is in this film. It's the first film in 20 years. So just incredible, you know, coup to get her in. So how did you manage to get these people on board? Were they kind of your first choices and just thought, right, I'm going to just contact Shelley Duvall and see if she's available? Or did you have prior conversations kind of thing?
Yeah, so we had a guy who cast a lot of the actors, and I guess like the people who I had interest in, you know, he did a lot of the casting. Chico was, you know, obviously we've been in touch. So Kevin Tompkins did the casting, and there were some roles that were open. I'm like, who do I really want to work with that I really like grew up on or liked? Obviously, Edward Furlong. I was in the movie theaters watching Terminator 2 when I was like 11 years old, eating popcorn and having a soda. Never did I think growing up and working with the guy, you know, like it's like seeing him on screen as a kid and like, you know, feeling like I'm near that age. I relate to that character, you know, and then like, you know, it's Detroit Rock City when I went to in 1999 or 2000 on like DVD. and seeing him play the role of Hawk, and that was really cool to see. And then like seeing later on, years later, Brain Scan, and thinking what a cool sci-fi horror film that is, and just being a fan of those three. And then obviously growing up watching E.T. when I was a kid with Dee Wallace. I mean, I wasn't watching it with her, but seeing her on VHS or on, my mom recorded like VHSs off the TV, so like HBO or whatever. Or and yeah, so I've always been a fan of them. And then Shelley Duvall obviously was just like an idea.
And Marianne Hagen from Halloween 6.
Oh, sorry, yes, yeah,
she was in it too.
Halloween 3, yeah, they're awesome as well. So this whole Shelley situation happened, well, back in 2016 when I saw the Dr. Phil episode. I was thinking to myself, man, I really would love to cast her in a project. Like, that'd be so cool, like to cast her in like one of my indie films, And at that time, I was doing like a lot of like short films and stuff, and I didn't have a way to contact anyone. But I was able to contact someone who's close to her, and we were able to. I got her number, and over time, we were just constantly calling, saying, "Hey, we're gonna, potentially be there for this and that." I mean, we even stupidly, at least on Facebook, did a poster with her name on it, and I was like, I was telling like the person who did, I was like, guys, it's not happening. Like, we should take that down, And then like she was on IMDb, so. And she doesn't have an agent or anything. So, so it just, came to be like where we said, okay, we're going to be this day. We got this amount of money. We're paying you. Let's do this. And we shot it. And then she worked with like two of the crew members. It was a very small crew. I remoted directly from my phone. I directed that way. And she said lines, as you can, as you saw in a certain scene, like her Rico. And then from there, we kind of thought and said, me and Scott Hansen and some of the producers were like, well, yeah, I don't know if people are going to be happy if you're just in like one sequence. So we kind of had the idea of maybe expanding her. And so as you see in those bunch of scenes that she's in, that came after the fact. All that stuff, that you had seen in the film with Shelley Duvall happened after the fact. And Felissa Rose from Sleepaway Camp got involved because I, fan of hers, and we tried to get her to play the role of Sadie, but she wasn't available at the time. And Anees did a great job as Sadie. Stacey
Nelkin.
Yeah, Stacey Nelkin. Yep, she plays one of the case masters. Yep, yeah. And I'm a fan of hers. I mean, Halloween 3 is one of my favorite, and I think it's just great that they did something different with that instead of yeah, that's how all those people came to be. And Marianne Hagen, Halloween 6, I had contacted her a year earlier, like 2021, because I said she was doing all interviews online. She was doing all these like podcasts, and I said, "Hey, I would love to do a podcast." She's like, "Listen, I've had like 7 in the last like month. Thank you so much, etc. I appreciate your support, etc." So when the time came, and I was like, "Man, I need to figure out who I can have play this role." We had the first idea was Ralph Macchio, and his manager said that he didn't want something as small; he wanted something much bigger. I don't know who. There was a bunch of others, but I forget who else. But
Drew.
Oh, Drew Barrymore. We contacted because we wanted her to play the role of who's Drew? Sadie. Yeah, we wanted her to play the role of Sadie. So, but she was. I don't think she was available or interested, or whatever. But because Dee Walsh was in, we wanted to reunite them. It's been like 40 years since like E.T. last year. It was like 40 years. Now it's 41. But I was trying to think of like who do I want to work with, and who do I think could, do well with the film and at least pique some interest. Because obviously you have a cast full of people who aren't as well known. That can kind of fall in the cracks of like when it comes to a sale of a film, it could kind of fall in the cracks of. And look, you can do a film with you can make a film concept and like Skinamarink, and it's going to make $1 million, and films like that, and that's awesome. But again, it's about like as you saw in the film, trying to do something different and doing something different when you create a werewolf film, as you saw the reveal and all these other things with Eddie and everything. I wanted to do something different with that instead of just a standard, someone transforming at the moon after getting bitten, because that's so outdone at this point. So we've tried to come up with a fresh way to do it, especially on a budget, because there's no budget. So how do you do it? Well, you got to figure out how do you make the gore, blood, and emotion, and lighting, and tone, and how do you create, a werewolf? Well, in whatever way we could, and that was all, the whole werewolf thing was already, Scott Hansen owned that already, the werewolf. So we're able to utilize those things, and on literally no budget, and it limited us a little bit, but it also opened our imagination to where we could figure out ways to, how do we use a hammer for this, or how do we do, and a knife, what do we, so those were our weapons of choices that we were able to utilize for certain scenes, in certain ways for certain characters. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So Chico, you worked with Shelley directly as well, and you have scenes with her. How was that? Because obviously, and Scott, you directed virtually, and then Chico, right, you were there in person.
Yeah.
So how was all that?
First of all, the fact, when I heard that she was going to be in the film, aside from Eddie and Stacy and Marianne and everybody else, when I heard she was going to be in the film, it was like, oh my God! It's like in a scene with me. Okay, she plays my mom, and Scott wrote some really dramatic scenes between us because, like he said before, he already knows me a little bit. Because of the years, and he's seen a lot of my work that a lot of people haven't even seen, and he's seen what I've done on the set that hasn't even been used. He's got a ton of behind the scenes footage that it's not out, or it wasn't it was cut out. Mm-hmm. So to hear that she was going to be in a scene with me and invite us out there, because that's where we went, to her house.
Yeah,
I was in awe. When we approached, it was like the mountains. It was like a big farm. And again, when I saw that, we approached the barbed wire because we were traveling down a dirt road, approaching her house. And we hit a hole that was full of mud and water. So everybody stopped and walked the rest of the way. As we were walking along the barbed wire, 6 or 7 cows just walked over to us, just to sniff. And it felt like home. Because that's how I grew up in the mountains of the Dominican Republic. Just like at my grandfather's house.
Yeah.
So when we entered the house and everybody is setting up and I saw her in the truck, I spoke to her for almost an hour, and then let her go. And I was walking on a cloud that day. The first day I was walking on a cloud because I couldn't believe not just that we were at her house, that we had come this far.
Yeah.
That we had come this far in the film, not like 19 years ago, and not from my childhood doing whatever, but we had come this far in the film. It was and that's what happens when you just throw the snowball down the hill. It could turn into something big, or you just hit a rock and blow up, fall apart. So, and I said, when things like that happen, that's when you throw the engine in turbo. And I don't mean go nuts and go crazy. That's when you really have to be dedicated and make it work and make it happen and finish it. Otherwise, it'll be an awful waste of everybody's time. Very, disappointments everywhere. But we all pulled through, and she was a doll to work with. Yeah. And she gave me some compliments that I still don't believe it till this day. Yeah, but it was an honor. It was a super honor to hear that coming from her, because one doesn't see oneself as others do. That's why Scott has to direct me, and he's like, do that again. It's like, what? That. And I'm like, what? I don't know. And that's the beauty of it. You see what I don't see, and that's the relationship. That's the partnership.
Yeah.
But it was fire. She wasn't feeling too well in one of the scenes, and it was getting really, really cold in a location that was not heated. So at one point they had to take her out, and I had to finish my scene without her.
Mm.
But I hear it came out phenomenal.
Yeah, you wouldn't have known that you were edited together really well. So yeah,
Right.
that's all.
But we had to get it done, and after that, I was just blown away when I came home, because I was bouncing from a cloud to a cloud. A lot of physical, internal emotion draining. Oh my God, mental, and running around and hurry this and stress and anxiety and all these things. And at the end of the day, not the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, when he calls action, you just got to, all that goes out the window. Those are the two sacred words I live by: action and cut. Yeah. and my, but yeah, working with her. And then I got a chance to work with Eddie. I think I worked with Eddie first, right, Scott?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was like, Connor. Like when I first saw him, it's like Billy, up high, down low, too slow. And he's like, and he went like, hey. Because you remember that was the scene that he had with Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
And we
That's
hit it off
awesome.
from day one. It was awesome. Yeah, it was. I heard on the set that we had a couple of mice and men moments. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Like one or two scenes were like a mice and men moment.
You definitely had really great chemistry, like on film. So was this the first time presumably it's the first time you ever met and worked with Eddie?
Right. I've never met him, never worked with him, but he's my best friend now.
Yeah.
and I worked with him, and then he came back and we worked again. We did something else, right?
Yeah, there were certain scenes that we did that you saw in the reveal with Chico and Billy. And Billy.
And same thing with Marianne. Marianne, I worked with her. Phenomenal. Oh my God, super. Oh Jesus Christ, dramatic. I mean, you saw it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, so I don't know how it was edited. But I know what we did that day. I know what we did, and yeah, the idea was to make it as dramatic and horrific as possible, up to as per Scott's vision. And then as long as he's happy, I'm happy.
Yeah. It was made as a horror film, and I think it kind of blends into different things. It's a drama, it's a thriller, it's a horror film. I mean, the way you set it up, right? It definitely is different than most horror films. It's not like a slasher or a gore fest or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's more a slow burn, kind of like in Kubrick. So I love that kind of stuff, like that very slow burn as you continue to start learning about the characters and the nuances and who they are and how their relationships are, and try to, and as we did like shoots after we shot 14 days, we did like a total of like 22 or something. We added like 8 more days or whatever. Then you start piecing together organic scenes that are like, okay, that'd be cool to add to or that would make sense if there's a therapist scene here, or that would make sense if there's a workout scene, and then like, how do you introduce Billy and Rico together? How do you do that, like in the beginning, so that none of that stuff, like the workout scene, the Billy and Rico stuff in the beginning, the RV with Sadie and Billy, like none of that was in it before, these last couple shoots. So, and like, some of like the certain flashbacks towards the end of the film with Rico as he's struggling, like some of that stuff, those edits were done like 2 days ago. so it's all a process, and as long as it feels good as an editor, then I think it'll translate well for people, because I'm a big horror fan, and I feel like horror is at a place where we just have a continuous amount of generic, formulaic, boring horror movies, and it's just like, and I'm not even saying I'm like this at all, but where are the Kubricks? Where are the Carpenters? Where are the people who like created stories with tension and pacing and character development? So drawing inspiration from that, I think, lends itself to maybe making a film like that. So, and hopefully people feel that the same way I do as far as that type of thing. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. All right, so we kind of touched on it. When you directed the Shelley scenes, you did it virtually. So was that how was that? Was that the first time you ever done that? Was that just out of necessity? Was that quite a challenge?
Yeah.
Like how was that all like happening?
Yeah. There was a little lag with the phone. It was through FaceTime. So I would call up Steve Valenda, who's one of the executive producers on the film, and he would hold the phone to the screen, and I would say, "Okay, Shelly, Scott, can you just lower the camera down?" So like I'd say things like that. And there was like a lag. Sometimes like I'd say something, and then I would hear exactly as I'm saying, like Shelly saying a line. I'm like, shit, like So it's like so there's definitely like a second lag time, and you got to be cautious with that. And we didn't know how the Wi-Fi was going to be, but I they told me that it was going to be fine. So once crew got there and everything, it was fine. And I think originally the scene with in the beginning, those scenes with Chico and Shelly, with argument scenes and whatnot, that stuff was actually when they called me on the phone. They had it set up like outside. And I was like, oh, no. Can we go inside? Like, can we film something inside? Because it was like at the doorway or something. And I was like, no. We need to like set it up like inside somewhere it's supposed to take place. Because I visualized like a garage with like boxes all in it, but like dark. And and maybe we could hang a light from up top. Visually, I'm thinking like a garage where garage doors open. They would sit like right inside across from each other a little bit. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely different than what I saw when I saw it. I was like, all right, let's just sit them in seats and like do like a shot over the shoulder and like close up and reversal shots. And that's kind of what we did. And I'm happy we did that instead of just shooting in the doorway. It would have been different. And it has that feeling of, them just, having conversation and talking, trying to talk through the issues that they talk about, so.
Awesome. Yeah. No, that's cool. So also another, what I would say is a really good coup to have in a film is you have the Grim Life Collective guys as they've came on board as producers. They're obviously really, their channel on YouTube has just blew up this last few years. They are like the biggest horror YouTubers. They're a great couple to watch. So they've done a few really good videos as well on YouTube promoting the film. They did a day with Shelley Duvall, which I thought was fantastic to watch. So how did they get on board of this film? Like, did you contact them? Did they contact you? Did you know them already? Like, how did that relationship come about?
Yeah, I contacted them, and I know their stuff for a long time. I mean, I think I saw some of their videos, dating back to even a couple of years. I've been a fan of like, on occasion, like it would pop up on my YouTube feed, like Adam the Woo or Grim Life Collective and, people like that. And I would see all these location videos and stuff. And yeah, so I just know them from online, and, they came on as producers, and yeah, they've been extremely helpful with, getting everything done as far as, part of producing, obviously promoting and getting the word out, especially since like independent film, not backed by studio. So, I mean, that was extremely helpful, and I'm very thankful to them and everyone, the crew and cast, Elliot, Chico. And yeah, so as it progresses and as you continue to try to, progress the film in a realm of stability to where you can sell it, and you got to do all those aspects of making as you're producing solo, when you're doing it. I do a lot of producing. Grim Life Collective does like advertising, type of promotional producing. Scott Hansen does like producing of equipment, crew. So everyone their own thing. Mm-hmm. And Chico produces the awesome character and brings it all to light. And with Chico, real quick, he just there were some parts like sometimes where I would watch him and say, I can never do that. I'm not of caliber or even an actor, but just to be in awe of like, type of things that he's done, and like watching it and watching the film, because I have a computer that lags a little bit. It's like from like 2019, and God forbid 8K. Nowadays, when you're shooting 8K resolution, I guess certain computers it lags if there's not enough core processing or whatever the case is. I watched it on my phone because I had to write notes. So even tonight, like right before sending the final edit to the colorist, I'm like looking at notes, reading notes and everything, writing them, and I'm just letting myself watch it as a viewer I started getting like emotional at certain points because you feel for Rico and the stuff he goes through. And as I've been editing it other ways, you know, the computer's lagging, it's jittering a little bit, but I can still edit the film, etc. But it's, you know, it's working on, you know, fumes at that point with technology. But as I watch it on my phone, I started getting teary-eyed because like when there's like revelations of Rico's character and you find some people aren't as nice as they're supposed to be. As a viewer, I let myself watch as a viewer, and I got like a little emotional. I felt for these characters, and I hopefully that's how other people feel as well when they watch the film. So yeah, I think it's something. I think Chico did a special job. Everyone did a great job. Everyone was, you know, did what they had to do to make the film come to light and create a great film. So I mean, I'm very proud of it for sure.
Those are the elements of a good team.
Yeah.
Team.
Definitely.
I do my part, you do your part, and you connect them all, and voila.
Yeah. I was just gonna touch on there for in terms of when we're talking about Chico and the Rico character. There's so much range in this film, like from Chico's character. It's you know, you have moments where, as you said earlier, he's just absolutely insane. Then you have moments where he's on the level, and then you know the twist at the end. But I'm not going to spoil it. I kind of half spoils it, the fact there's a twist, but we've touched on it already. But you know, it's like, you know, you really are invested in this character, and you know, you have that realization at the end, and it's a journey that you've taken us all on. So it's like kudos for, you know, having all those elements that you brought to life in one character.
Thank you. I truly appreciate it. But I'll tell you one thing: if Scott came to me 20 years ago, something like this, I would have done it, but I would not have been ready to do it. I would say, sure, let's do it. I don't know what would have come out, but now, I mean, you know, it's years, life experiences, disappointments, drama in our personal lives, also good stuff, bad stuff. And you learn from all of this. And at the end of the day, it gets deposited into, you could just channel it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that I really wanted to do when he told me, okay, your character is going to do this in one scene, it's going to do this in another scene. I'm like, yes, because I don't want to do that every day. I don't want to have to do that every single day. I could do that. And I don't know, but it's also because I didn't know what to expect the next day. And that keeps us on our toes. You know, it keeps us excited. Like, okay, what are we doing today? I don't know, but there's going to be blood. You know, then the next day is like, what are we doing today? I don't know, but there's a psychiatrist coming by.
Well, you had mentioned that I actually have a question about, and I hope that's okay, Ryan. Because I was just thinking, like, in my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, well, and you want to talk about, I don't know, you know, obviously everyone draws from personal situations, sadness and stuff. And if you know, if it's personal, you don't have to answer. But Chico, I was curious about.
Me?
You know, yeah.
Oh,
when it comes to your emotional elements of doing the film, for example, like what drew you to the place of the sadness and the agony that your character went through? Was there any particular memory or something that you thought about when you were in those scenes? Like what was your process like with that? I'm curious.
I'll tell you, I think there's a 2 or 3 part for me. First part is what I just said earlier about having lived certain years, because you know, I know people that are like, you know, 25, 30, 40 years old, but they've been through a lot. They're like 80-year-olds trapped in a 30-year-old body. Then I met the 70-year-old who's still a kid, who hasn't really lived, but living is experiencing.
Right.
And if I didn't go through all of those experiences, I wouldn't know what it feels like.
Okay.
So let's take that, the feeling. Boom. I know what it feels like. So now let's take Rico and put that feeling in him. Boom. I'm going to feel that now. But that feeling came from somewhere. And yeah, we all have our little things that we draw from, but that's the little bag of tools that we carry as actors. You know, if you know, when you came out of college, Scott, And we did a couple of films. At some point, I told you somewhere in the woods, it's like, they didn't teach that. They didn't teach you that in school, did they? Right?
Of course, yeah.
Because this is a different kind of college. Okay, you graduate from school. Now you're going to go to the tip of the mountain and stay at the monastery and study Kung Fu while your knuckles bleed for 22 years to then know what it's like or to learn. You know, it's like, I graduated already. I'll be dead. But, wax on, wax off. So all of those experiences teach you all kinds of things, happiness. Right. And then when you learn to just compartmentalize them and put them in little cubicles and put them in little bags, it's like, okay, we need feeling. And that's where you have to give me, already what I'm like when I'm happy, when I'm sad, when I'm this or when I'm that, or when I'm pissed off or whatever. And then he plucks like a voodoo doll. He just plucks needles in my head. It's like you're gonna be angry at the phone call and then hang up and scream at the top of your lungs, and then I got to remember all of that and make it look believable. Yeah. And then there's a 3 cardinal rule, which is believability, natural, and realism. And as long as Scott gets those 3 things out of me, or at least he's happy with them, or they're, like I said, sometimes you only have 10 minutes to get a shot and you need to shoot it not 127 times like Cooper, but once or twice, and that's it, you're out. It's good enough. But if you just let it rip the first time and milk the rest the second, I think you got your shot in 10 minutes. And it's got and that's the beauty of having a working relationship between an actor and a director, is that the director knows. He doesn't have to try you out. He doesn't have to audition. He's like, okay, this is part of the, and then he knows already.
Yeah.
And that's an experience. You see, when I said feeling sadness, happiness, and all these feelings that we get throughout the years, traveling, hopping around, living in the van. Let me tell you, every time I watch Off the Grid, I get nostalgic.
Right.
That film, because it reminds me of when I lived in my van in the cold, brutal winters, two winters.
Yeah.
And he documented me, and we did all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And even that film has something for me, has a memory for me. And like when I watch it, it takes me there.
Right.
Yeah.
I buy like American. Yeah. Mark
Borchardt. And same as we gather those feelings as we go. Scott and I went throughout 19 years, and he's gathered elements of me. Mm-hmm. So that's why we're here at 19 years later, 20 years later, and he's like, no, this role is for Chico because I know he can do this, he can do this, he can do this. He's done it.
Exactly.
But if you put it all together, that's him as a writer. He puts it all together. What I adored was the like you said, the range, the up and down and up and down and up and down. I welcome it as a challenge because I could only stretch so far, and then I want to stretch a little bit more as an actor. I want to learn more. I want to learn every day. I want to learn something new every day. I want to try something new, and I welcome that challenge because I want to grow. I'll grow from that, and then again, that's another experience that I'll take with me, and maybe in 5 years from now, I'll put that to get to the next step, whatever the next level is, living, and doing what we love to do, what we're passionate about. I'd rather do something that I'm passionate about and die trying than to do something that I'm miserable and while I'm dying, maybe take 1 or 2 with me. I don't know. No, I mean, I don't mean that literally, but you know what I mean.
No, but there was I can't remember what I was watching the other day, but was it? I can't remember who said it. It was it's nearly 3 a.m. here, so I've totally forgot. My mind's a blank on it. But basically, it was the story of how it was a video of Jim Carrey, and his dad could have been a comedian, but then he went on to be an accountant, and then he essentially got sacked as an accountant. He hated being an accountant, but it was good money, and then he got sacked. So essentially, he failed at something that he didn't want to do, rather than thinking he was going to fail at something he loved. He's like, well, you might as well, you failed at something you hated, so why don't you take a chance on something you love?
Right.
And that's
Yeah. Here's a little analogy for you. A lot of times when I see somebody giving up on something that they've been doing for 10 years, because the norm, if I should say, it's just like put it into quotes, 20 years people retire. 20 years working, people retire. Right? Sometimes they keep on going because there's nothing else to do after retirement. So they keep working. Right? So take half of that. 10 years, you're doing something you hate. You're doing something you hate. You're doing something you hate. And then you do it for another 3. Now you're past the point of no return. Get me? 10, then be in the middle. Even if it's one day after 10 years, that's it. You're past the point. You might as well keep going to the end and finish it. Otherwise, you should have stopped at day 1 and saved yourself 10 years.
Yeah.
So I rather go this way, even if it feels right for me. I'd rather go that way and die. Go like swimming across the ocean. You're swimming across the ocean, and once you're past the point of no return, you don't think you're going to make it. You're going to turn around and come back. Think, what are the odds? 51%, and now you have 49% of oxygen left, and you're going to now swim back and be short on 2%, and you're going to die anyway. Fail and die. So you might as well give it a shot. Die trying.
Yeah, yeah.
At least even if you do this to the finish line, and pass out. And then pass out and die from a heart attack. But you made it. You made it. You know what I mean?
That's it. Life lessons. We get everything on this show. We get life lessons. You know, everything.
Yeah. And ultimately, that's what brings us all here. That's why we came this far. And for many years, I told Scott, what do you think you want to do? What's the next step? What's the next level? What's the next step? Let's outdo our last project. Let's go. I don't know. Let's go dig some graves or something. So I was always asking, like, what's on the back burner?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Until he surprised me with this thing, and I said, that's what we needed. And I think, my God, man, I thank everybody for believing and that we could pull this off, that we could do that. I thank Scott, man. I love you, man. You're my brother. You believe and that I can do it, and I kept going. I'm going to keep going. I got another good 20, 30, 40 until I die. And Elliot, who believed in all of us, especially in you, to help with the money and at least get the ball rolling, because that's the next level. We could do this till the cows come home, but at the end of the day, it's like, okay, the car broke down. Anybody got money for an Uber? No. So we're gonna sleep in the woods, and I was always ready for that too, and he knew that. We shot in the woods so many times and got stranded and stuck everywhere.
Yep.
But kept on going. Yeah, kept on going.
Montauk is a place in Island called Camp Hero, where supposedly mind control happened. There's like a book called The Montauk Project written on that. So we went off for a film Off the Grid, where we went out there and it was like a snowstorm. I mean, it was horrendously snowstorm. I think we took your car. I think we took your van, right? Is that what we took?
I think.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, it was my van, but there was nobody on the road when we hit the road. Wasn't it on a Sunday?
It was a Sunday. Yeah, it was no one on the road, but it was like, I mean, the snow was crazy. So thank you.
The snow was like this.
It was like, I mean,
one track.
It was like a ton of snow. Like when we were filming, Vernon Grabdale, a friend of mine, came out and he like held an umbrella because the snow was coming down sideways. So as if you watch the film on Amazon, Off the Grid, Survivalism and Frugality, you see like his beard start like building up, like on one side only, like snow start like building up, and it was like just continuously like coming at him. But yeah, there's like a radar tower there, and he's like an old military base and whatnot. It's kind of really cool. We hop the fence. Everyone hops the fence as long as you're not doing anything crazy. As long as you're not like getting hurt.
I got something I want to show you. Give me one. Can I step? Can I go for like 15 seconds and
yeah, sure. No,
I got something I'm going to show you. On that note, hold on.
Mallrats poster he has. Yeah. Our premiere is March 11th in New Jersey at Kevin Smith's theater.
Oh yeah.
Smart Castle Cinemas. Yeah, so we have that on March 12th. So
awesome. Because that was what I was going to ask: is how far on are we now? Are we? So we're ready for the release. We're ready to go.
He's in.
ready to go. Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Awesome.
All right.
What were you talking about, Scott?
Just about the premiere and talking about if it's ready. Yeah, it'll be good to go. Yeah. Excited.
Right here. You know what this is, Brian?
What is that?
It's a piece of the antenna at Camp Hero.
Oh man! Wow.
Leaves of the metal would fall off, break off, rusted, buried in the ground. So when we were leaving, I tripped over this one that was sticking out, and I grabbed it, tried to pull it out, but it was attached to a bigger piece that was buried. So Scott was like, "Yo, let's go. There's people. Come on, let's go." And I'm like, "Hold on a second. Give me a minute. Wait, one more minute." And I'm like breaking it off, and I broke it off, and I still have it.
Oh wow! There you go. A good keepsake.
I'll send you a little piece,
man.
And that's my momentum from Camp Hero and Off the Grid.
That's awesome. So so we've just Scott, you've just said there about the premiere of The Forest Hills. So where can people see The Forest Hills? When will it be going on to VOD? Will it be getting a theatrical release? How can people see it and check it out?
Yeah, so like any independent film, it's that's working from the ground up. We have a bunch of people that we're going to be talking to about distribution and sales agents and just distributors in general, and go from there. So right now it's just that kind of like grassroots movement of just putting everything together and doing some screenings, renting out theaters, which is why we have an Indiegogo up for next like 19 days. If you type in on Google, I think it's like Shelley Duvall Indiegogo, it'll pop up, and we're just like raising some money for marketing and advertising and stuff. So so after that, I mean, it's gonna pretty much be available once the distributor picks it up and sets a date, and maybe it might have a theatrical run, maybe not, we don't know, but we feel very strongly that this film's gonna go places. So I'm excited about it. It's I'm very proud of it, and made sure that as a filmmaker, every shot needs to mean something. Every pause, every spot before someone takes another breath, just like everything like that. When it comes to shots and elements of it, it needs to be tight, and it needs to make sense, and it needs to flow, and it needs to have the emotion and because I mean, there's tens of thousands of millions of ways. That's a weird way of putting numbers out there, but of actually putting together a scene and splicing together a split second can make your film, can make a scene off, So patience is important, and being sure how long to keep a shot for, or to shorten a shot, or to shorten a scene, or to extend a scene, or put something in between a scene, and whatever feels right, I feel will feel right to horror fans and people who like thrillers and dramas. I feel like I have a pretty good knack of understanding what feels right, and I think that the viewers will hopefully feel the same when it comes to that. With the editing choices for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it's a very exciting time. I obviously I've seen the film. I've seen the rough cut. I've not seen the final version. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I will say, to be honest, even though it wasn't the final product, I thought it was a fantastic watch. It flew by really quickly. Everyone put in a brilliant performance. So I think it's a film that everyone out there should check out when you get the opportunity to. And I personally think it's a film that you both and everyone involved should be very proud of, to be honest with you.
Thank you, Ron. We appreciate that. Thanks so much. We're horror fans as well, so trying to do something unique and different. So we appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So where can people find you both in terms of social media? What's the best way for people to keep tabs on what you guys are up to?
Well, Scott and I are always on Facebook. I have a page, Chico Mendes 3, which is the one that I'm on actively. Like that's because the other two, like, you start with one, it gets full. You start with another one, but I'm usually on 3 and Instagram, and they're both connected. You'll find me if you just Google me. You'll find me. I'm backstage, and my website is actually under construction as well. So hopefully within the next couple of weeks, or maybe, depending on what happens in the next month or two,
Yeah.
we're going to work on that. ChicoMendez.com. I have it held there. It's like, ready to work on something. And but you'll find us. Just Google Chico Mendez, Shelly or Chico Mendez, Scott Goldberg, YouTube. A ton of links on there, and yeah, you'll see us.
Awesome.
Yeah. Instagram.
And we're always promoting. We're always promoting. Every time we send each other links, and we just like reshare, repost, and back and forth. I'm on LinkedIn too, But my main the main page that I have that has most of the links on that, backstage.com/Chico Mendez. And that has most of the links that I'm on.
Awesome.
That's official on Instagram. So that's the username. Usernames change, but Scott Goldberg official. And by the way, we appreciate you taking the time tonight to, it's late and stuff. So hopefully you're a type who stays up late. But I know different in the United States. Where are you from? But in the UK, where are you?
I'm based in a city called Carlisle. So we're at the north of England. We're the last city in England before you get to Scotland. So literally about a 5-minute walk from my house, there's like a bypass that takes you straight into Scotland. It takes like 5 minutes in the car.
So you have like water by you and stuff, like ocean and stuff, or no? Is there not or mountains? Like what's kind of like the
mountains? Yeah. So Cumbria is very famous for a thing called the Lake District, which is basically really beautiful scenery, mountains, lakes, obviously. And so it's like we're really lucky where we are. We're essentially like the greenest area of England. So kind of once you get past where we are, you get to like the big cities, Manchester, Liverpool. Up in Scotland, obviously you have Glasgow, Edinburgh, that kind of thing. We're in a really green, kind of nice, picturesque area, so we're very lucky. Not with weather, freezing cold all the time, but
ice and snow.
Yeah. Is it like overcast 70% of
clouds.
the year?
Always cloudy, always rainy. We get a week of sun.
I thought that 5 minutes ago already. I was like, what? New England? Maybe we're going to film there, but how's the weather?
Yeah, it's a blank canvas. Cloudy days.
Hey Ryan, you call him one day, Mr. Goldberg, we've got clouds.
It's one thing I hate. It's sunspots on a shooting day. Like on a filming day. So I think clouds. Because I'm a big fan. If you're a fan of like Creepshow 2, for example, like when you see the truck coming down the street in Maine and you see like the late afternoon winter and it's like dark and it's cloudy, like there's just a different feeling. And like, Dawn of the Dead, when they're like getting, when they're getting shot on the hill, with George Romero's Dawn of the Dead, you see him getting shot on the hill and the fucking clouds and the way that the film stock is shot, like, and the way that you're seeing like the imperfections on it. Like, I just love that. So for me, that's what I love is cloud days. So we might have to go make a film there.
It's always cloudy,
Good.
or raining. One of the two.
I'll bring a tent in my backpack.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, guys, I thoroughly appreciate you taking the time to come on the show. It's been awesome speaking to you both. And I just want to say good luck with the movie. I think it's going to be a great success. It's already amassed, I think by the different trailers, like over 100K views on the trailers. Wow. It's getting great press in all the websites and stuff. So I've got great faith it'll be a big success. But thank you for coming on and really best of luck with everything.
Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. God bless you, Ryan. Thank you so much for taking the time as well and seeing us and believing in our work, and just keep us posted with how is everything happening on your end as well.
Yeah, we're gonna and check out and just continue to support best way we can. So we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys.
Spread the word and let's just go to the movies. All right.
Perfect.
Thanks.